Hey guys, Tracii Guns here. Welcome to Metalmorphosis. From bluesy rockabilly to black metal, my personal musical journey led me to the sounds I call home and the music I make today. In this course, my course, we'll explore a range of genres that heavily influence my playing, and I'll share my own rhythm and lead guitar approaches for each one of them. We'll play over backing tracks spanning some of the genres that shape my sound, from 50s and 60s rock and roll to blues shuffles, psychedelic 70s rock, and ultimately culminating in hard rock and metal. Tab and notation are synced to the videos with slow motion and looping controls to help you learn at your own pace. I hope this course encourages you to open your ears to all styles of music as you develop your own voice on the guitar. All right, grab your guitar, let's go.
All right, hello, and welcome to this edition of TrueFire Live. It's going to be a good one, TrueFire students and fire starters. We got a big one today. We have the incomparable Tracii Guns. You know him from the LA Guns, and today's going to be talking about his course, Metamorphosis. But before we get started, let's go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe. Let's get as many eyeballs in here to watch Tracii as we can. And don't forget to leave some comments down there and questions for Tracii. We will periodically go through the chat and ask Tracii all the questions that you have for him and leave all the comments for him. And don't forget to tell us where you're tuning in from. We'd love to know where you're tuning in from. That way, you know, we can know where to go on the next tour with Tracii. But to kick things off, we have to bring in the man, the myth, and the legend. The man who's going to be running this chat. He's a theorist in the streets and a Jeff in the streets. It's TrueFire's Director of Education, Jeff Sheets. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, man. How are you doing, Shane?
I am fired up and ready to go, ready to have my face melted.
And you know, that's what it's all about here at TrueFire Live, is face melting. Any of that we can do, it's a good thing. So we have people tuned in, it looks like, from all over the place: Indianapolis, Memphis, North Carolina, Argentina, France. We're coming to you out there in Canada, numerous folks from Canada. So awesome. It's great to see everybody here. We're going to be doing some cool stuff during this show. And for sure, if you've got questions, throw down your questions in the comments, because we'll try to get to some as we go, but really want to talk to Tracii about his new course, about everything else he's doing, and just sort of, have a good, fun conversation, a wide-ranging conversation here. So without further ado, let's get Tracii in here. Tracii, are you there?
I am here. I am here for you, Jeff.
Oh, how are you doing, my brother?
Great. We're on tour. We just did 3 shows in a row to start it off, and I just been watching cat videos and stuff on the day off, and getting ready for this.
There you go. I mean, I think there's nothing more inspirational to get ready to go out and shred on guitar than some cat videos, right?
That's right. That and chocolate.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. So where you at your tour? You're basically touring, as the tap said, the world and elsewhere. But
yeah.
Basically, how long are you going to be out for here during this leg of the tour?
We got 3 more weeks of this little actual tour. And today I'm in Saginaw, Michigan, and we play in Flint, Michigan tomorrow at the Machine Shop, which is one of our favorite places to play. It's just, talk about melting faces. The name of the venue kind of says it all. But yeah, we're on our leisurely ass-kicking tour, just having a great time. I mean, for me, I just play guitar solos all night. That's
can't beat that.
Stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Good work if you can get it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, man, we're here. We're going to talk a little bit about the course that you came down and shot at TrueFire that is coming out. If anybody wants that course, now's the time to get it. You can actually get early access to this thing before everybody else gets it. So Shane's going to be posting some links there to the course. Metamorphosis, I mean, this is a really cool way of looking at things, because you may be known as, the LA Guns guy, a guy that rocks, but you've got a lot of influences. You come from a long line there of going through different styles and learning a lot of different things. So talk about that a little bit. Like, when you started out, what really got you going, and what was the first thing that really, fired you up about playing guitar?
Well, there was the theremin, right? I mean, because when I was 5 years old, I was in my mom's boyfriend's car sitting in the back, and Whole Lot of Love came on. And it had the theremin solo with the crazy, it sounded like, the Wizard of Oz. And then it came out of that section into that insane guitar solo. And I poked my head up, what is this? you know, and my mom goes, oh, that's Jimmy Page, from Led Zeppelin. And I was like, wow. And we were moving to France. And a couple days later, we had dinner, walked by a newsstand. I don't even know if they have those anymore. And there was a Cream magazine with Jimmy Page on the cover, with the bow and the dragon suit. And my mom goes, "That's Jimmy Page. He makes that noise," and that ruined my life forever. It's as simple as that, man.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So did you start with the guitar right away?
I did instantly. I had a little nylon string guitar that was my mom's, and I begged her to let me bring it to France, and she said no. But I got lucky, and there was one there. And I was only there for 6 months. We moved back, but I would just kind of beat on the guitar. I had no idea. Nobody knew how to play a D chord around me or anything. So that's how I started. And when I got home, it was just game on. That was it. And my mom, who was around the most, she was really into, like, Hank Williams, Merle Haggard, John Prine, Janis Joplin, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles. So everything had like a kind of, country-ish major. My mother plays pedal steel, by the way, so that might explain some things. So when I was learning, every time I would hear something dark, like even just before Sabbath came out, but so everything was about Zeppelin, Zeppelin 2, and so many, pentatonic minor scales, so much blues going on that record, that my mom didn't play any of that stuff. Everything she did was in major keys. And I just wasn't interested. You know what I mean? So I figured out how to play to her accompaniment LP that she would play pedal steel to, but in the pentatonic major position, which was just like the minor position, but just back here. And I read that in a book, in a Guitar Player magazine. Tony Iommi actually explained how that works.
Nice.
So now all of a sudden I could play the really just, hokey major licks and stuff like that. And then when the next one would come on in like A minor, then I was like, when I was like 7 years old, I mean, it's crazy. I was born to play guitar, I mean, I could just play.
That's amazing.
And the more information I collected over my lifetime just added to me having a bigger encyclopedia. So, but once I knew what a pentatonic scale was and how, chords worked in a scale, that was it, man. I was just like, man, let's do
that.
This.
Is awesome. Did you take any lessons? Did you jump into any formal lesson kind of a thing, and study that way?
One day, my mom was taking lessons from Red Rose, who was a very, kind of she pedal steel player and teacher. And he was teaching at Valley Arts. And my mom's like, you need guitar lessons. And I'm like, okay. So we went, and the guy's name was Gunnars Knubis. I'm not kidding. And Knubis started with a K. Gunnars Knubis. And he goes, so what are you into? And I'm like, Led Zeppelin. There was nothing else. Led Zeppelin. Well, I'm not teaching you Led Zeppelin. So I sat there learning After Midnight, which made me hate Eric Clapton for the rest of my life because of this guy. And I walked out of the room halfway through waiting for my mom. My mom's, what are you doing out here? He wants me to play like Eric Clapton. We're going. And that was my last guitar lesson. I was 11.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, but it ruined Clapton for me. But
well, so as you sort of, jumped in, started playing, obviously part of the things that you talk about in this course are all the different influences, the different sort of styles, and how you can sort of take what you do and shape those into different styles, if you will. How did you get into the different styles? Just by listening eventually and, getting swayed to different directions?
That's exactly it. I started getting studio work when I was about 16 or 17 because I lived right off Fairfax
Mhm.
Boulevard, and that's where Cherokee Studios was and Hitman Studio, and there was a little group of studios there. And just from kind of jamming at parties and things like, junior high school kids and high school kids do, I made a lot of connections. I was living in LA, in the
Right.
70s, which was like the best time ever.
Yeah.
So I would go in to record for somebody, and I knew the difference between major and minor, which was the biggest gift that I could have because I still didn't really play natural minor scales, or at least I didn't know I was, right? So I would go in and I would throw down, and then like, the musicians were always way older than me, and they go, "Oh no, man, try this." And so I learned a lot from guys just pointing at the neck, going,
Right.
"Oh yeah, try
Wow.
this, try that," and then I'd hear it come back on the recording, and I just go, "Fuck, that's amazing, thank you." So it's like always been bewilderment for me, like when something new comes up, because I kind of started like playing Whole Lot of Love and Iron Man, then Van Halen came out. So kind of started at the top first. Like I was really into Gary Moore when I was
Wow.
12,
Yeah.
you know.
Amazing. It's
So, but
amazing.
I didn't understand why all these guys could play like that. And so getting older and older and older and just reading interviews and learning how to dissect music, because that's really what I'm best at. I'm good at identifying things in music.
Yeah.
So I would go and see, who's Cliff Gallup,
Yeah.
who's, BB King,
Right.
who's this guy, that guy.
Yeah.
And I always just kind of tried to not learn what they were playing per se, but what's that feeling? What is
Yeah.
how are they getting that emotion out of me? What are they doing on the guitar that's creating emotions? And that's always been the most important thing to me, obviously, because, I got turned on to Page through the theremin thing.
Right.
I wanted to know why it made me feel that way.
Yeah.
And so, getting to jam with, zillions of people. I played with so many people now, in a songwriting capacity, recording, that I really know what I like. And
Yeah.
most of those things are the things that have been the most popular throughout history on the electric guitar.
Right.
So I just really put two and two together. And when I'm writing something, it always starts out as garage rock because that's the most, kind of, yeah. So everything starts there. That's
Right.
kind of the middle. It's not quite old school blues, but it's not super slick, rock. But
Yeah.
that's like a really good starting point for me. And then I can interject some rockabilly feelings here, some
Yeah.
really heavy metal feelings here and there. And it just kind of, that's just the way that I make, my dish,
Yeah.
and every dish is has a little bit different ingredients. And I'm really lucky because with Phil, the singer of LA Guns, he doesn't write anything first. He doesn't write any vocal melodies or lyrics. So he just, I get to deliver, "Hey, look what I did,"
Yeah.
and then he's like, "Great." And then he does his thing on top of it. And it's like, great. So it's really always just this kind of kindergarten art project for us. And 36 years later, Jesus Christ, man.
Crazy, man. Crazy. It's apparently working. You're still doing it. So, that it's worked out all right.
Hey, the bills
So,
are paid.
so in the early days, would you say then that you probably did more kind of your own thing as opposed to just sitting and learning solos note for note, right?
Yeah,
Did you'd rather kind of learn a bit and then kind of create, right?
exactly. And that has to do with I have a kind of strange brain. But the really cool thing about that is like, for example, I'm Jimmy Page and Randy Rhoads. Those are my guys, right? Like they're at the top. Like you can't do better. I can't really play their solos like note for note,
Yeah.
but I can sound exactly like them,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
really bizarre, because I understand what they're doing, but I can't play anybody else's music. And I was in Rating the Rock Vault, which is a
Yep.
history of classic rock concert, basically, right?
Yep. Yep.
Howard Leese from Heart was the music director and the other guitarist. He had to teach me every goddamn little nuance to every song. But once I got it, I could play it.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to be able to listen to something and go, oh yeah, man, I can do that. Never. Like, it's never going to happen.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great show. It was John Payne's friend of mine. And so we went and saw him out there, and it was a fun, very cool show.
Good time.
And yeah, it's like one of those things where there's the playing something note for note, but when you're doing your own thing, you want to just interpret it and make it your own. You know, you kind of want to say, this is my version of it. I don't need to play that exact, but in that situation, you sort of have to. So I'm sure that was a little bit of a challenge, right?
Well, I mean, there's certain things like let's say I'm going to play Crazy Train. I'm so obsessed with Randy that I have to learn it.
Right.
Like exactly, like with the right distortion pedal, the right sound, the right behind the beat, the right ahead of the beat, the right squeal in this play. You know, but he's really the only guy that I would be embarrassed if I didn't play it exactly how he played it live.
Right.
You know, like that's like a really weird insecurity I have with Randy Rhoads. Hendrix, I just love jamming Hendrix. Zeppelin, I try to outpage Page. You know what I mean? Because he has that little, like Felix the Cat, a little bag of tricks.
Yeah.
And you could use those tricks anywhere in a Zeppelin song.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, Page did this, but I'm going to do it twice, or whatever, So, I mean, yeah, music's just a big puzzle for me, man. I just want to play.
That's awesome, man. That's good stuff. So I got a couple questions. Let's run through a couple questions from the audience, man. We got folks tuning in from just all over the place. Thank you guys for all being here. One question here about, how do you set up your guitars, especially your Les Pauls, as far as, your action and, the sort of typical, what's your, what kind of strings do you use? But then let's roll into that. How do you like them set up action wise?
Well, okay. To start this question off, I never met a guitar I didn't like. Like it could have high action, low action, big. I don't like big strings. I mean, they're painful. There's no reason to play. They don't. And by the way, anybody paying attention, they don't sound any different.
Right.
The string is a string. It vibrates at the same vibration. You get your sound of the guitar from the neck, the fingerboard material, and the pickups. If the guitar is too heavy, it ruins the sound of the acousticness of an electric guitar. But anyways, I prefer pretty low action. I like a pretty big 50s neck. I always say that until somebody hands me an Ibanez, and then I'm like, but I just think that it's like a fatter cake, right? It's like, as opposed to a wafer. But I use 9 through 42, or what's the other? 9 to 42. Fitz, my guitar tech, sitting right here making sure I don't lie. I like 9 through 42s. Right now I use Apex strings. My favorite strings of all time are Roto Sounds, all nickel strings made in Britain. They're hard to get at. But yeah, I mean, what's comfortable for you, but the one thing that I really have to have, because I play a lot of different stuff, I have to have low output PAF pickups, because the guitar has to just sound like a guitar. It can't really be the hottest, oh my God, listen to how heavy this guitar sounds. I get that from distortion pedals and things like that. So I have my own pickups coming out with bare knuckle pickups. Tim Mills, who is a pretty tight with Jimmy Page and those two Les Pauls, let's just say. And, we developed a pickup that without having a boost button, let's say, or adding a battery, you can be playing along in your normal PAF humbucker sound, and then you pull the tone knob and it adds more. And that's the only thing I can say is it adds more. It adds a little more sustain, a little bit more mid-range, and a little bit of boost without anybody knowing why. But they work and they're great. So that's what's going on in my guitars right now. And if I'm not using those, I pretty much like to play the tellies, because I'm able to get more clarity out of a telly, even when I'm playing real heavy. But a super low output, like a 1959 Les Paul PAF, that works best for me.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, let's run through a couple other quick questions. Tube amps or modeling amps?
It's a good question because I just switched again. I think with modeling amps, I used a head rush for 6 years live and in the course, in our lessons that we did at the studio there. I love it. And it's reliable. And, when you hear recordings and things like that, you just go, my God, that sounds great. But I just switched back to using my RJS signature amp, which is basically a 100-watt Marshall JCM 800 JMP kind of hybrid circuit. So it's a little squishier than a JCM 800. And I'm just using a tube screamer in front of it and 4 phase shifters. And the reason I'm using 4 is one is for tremolo, one's for a univibe effect, one's for just like a Eddie Van Halen, Joe Walsh kind of effect, and then one's like a hard tremolo. So I have 4 phase shifters. I use 2 different tape delays live. They're on all the time. One's for like a 100 millisecond slap, and one's for like almost 400 millisecond just under, instead of reverb,
Right,
those are the
right.
tape delays. And then I have a third delay that's just out of control, just when I want everything to go bonkers. And then my friend, I get confused really easily. My friend at Echo Park Guitars, he's bringing me his fuzz pedal tomorrow night, which I'm going to add, which is really a ballsy fuzz that takes it into Octavia land. And then that's going to be it. And, Echo Fix in Australia, they got a chorus coming out to me and a spring reverb. And that's it. I mean, effects are awesome. And I love using them in the studio to do weird stuff. But live, man, I just want to play and I want it to be mushy. I want to, I want it to be clear, but I don't want to be uncomfortable, But I really found that going back to what I played my whole life, which is just a 100-watt Marshall, is really great.
Nice.
It's really easy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Good stuff, man. Yeah, there's a lot of things to choose from, and I think you can play anything and it'll sound good. It'll still sound like you. So that's the great thing, right? When you develop
it's 2024. Nobody makes a bad sounding guitar product.
So true. So true, man. All right. So, you came down, we shot this course. It's so much good stuff in it. Let's take a look at it. Let's see if Tommy can bring up, let's take a look at this course, because I really want people to see all the cool tools and stuff that are available in the course.
It's amazing.
We've got, this is Tommy, our producer at TrueFire. He gets a little bit of screen time on these, just not a lot. We don't let him out a lot. As you see, he's in the studio right now. So he doesn't leave the studio very much.
Sleep here every night.
He's got a cot back there. Yeah. That's pretty much what he does. But yeah, Tommy, let's bring up a little bit of the course and show folks, because the tools here, man, that you can use, like I say, it's almost like cheating, because it's like, the tab is connected to the video. It's amazing. You can slow it down. You can loop sections. So give us a little rundown of that, Tommy, kind of go through that.
Yeah. Well, why don't we pull up a video and take a look at one of the performances? What do you feel like listening to? Tracii, pick one. Which one was one of your favorites? You want to do?
Oh, which one is kind of surprised me was like one of the heavier ones. I can't see that. I'm blind.
There's like let's take a look at
like the heavy ballad.
Heavy ballad?
Yeah. Like that would be really, it's a little bit tricky because of the chord progression doesn't start or end on the root of the key.
Pull one up and let's dig in and
let's just take a look. So this will be the why don't we do the dark ballad?
Yeah.
That one.
Lead performance. Let's take a look. So guys, as you can see, this is the TrueFire interface. This is where you come to watch the videos. You have all of the tools. This course, like we said, is going to be available for everyone to purchase, and Shane will give you guys some more details here in a minute, but let's take a look at a video. Nice. So the cool thing about this too, Tracii, you check this all out. Like the sound slice is in there. You guys have, you have the tab that runs along in sync. You can jump to any bar of the performance and study like just a bar if you wanted to. Like we could just loop a section of it. And then if you wanted to, like some of these more, faster lines, you can really slow them down and dig in and study at your own pace. So, the distorted tones, let's just slow it down a little bit. So, I mean, you could really dig in there, right? And then you have the neck diagrams that'll show you exactly what's happening on the neck, which is really cool.
Wow.
So really, all the tools, man.
Amazing.
Like, I always say, like, if you can't learn with the tools, all the tools that we put together there to take it at your own pace, pick out a line at a time, steal some of Tracii's licks,
All of them.
At the end of the day, that's what we all want to do, right?
Absolutely, man. That is so true, Tommy. That's what I always say. Look, if you can't learn guitar by looking at all this stuff, you should consider the tuba.
I didn't play anything overly fast in any of the lessons either. Everything is palatable. I wanted to make sure that every phrase that we recorded and went through was an actual phrase and not just blowing a bunch of notes out there. So you'll find it within all the lessons melodic. And do all the tracks have jam tracks or just some of them?
I think all of them.
Yeah, every one of them. Man. I think did. And the cool thing is, like, what I thought was great about this course is, like, this is really Tracii taking you through sort of the trail of his influences and sort of how he's changed throughout time, and we got things like the rockabilly and rock in influences, Jimi Hendrix and the blues greats. There's some slow rock jams in here, garage rock, bassline riffs, classic 60s riffs, from garage. It's like sort of following
it's history,
metamorphosis of your your influences and how they impact, but everything is it's like it's what you picked up from all of these different influences over time, which I thought was really, really cool.
Well, I think that it would be fair to say that most of the guys my age that have come up and, became successful as rock guitar players probably all kind of have the same influences. I would assume that because we all do play kind of similar in a way. We have a similar taste in tone, things like that. So when Jeff and I were first talking about doing this, it was a question of, well, should we teach songs or should we teach the real core of why it happens? What do you need to know to create your own music in my style or the 80s style, whatever you want to call it? And we chose to do this, and I wish I had this course when I was 15. You know what I mean? To be like, oh, right. Oh, wow. Yeah. Because it's more than anything, it's enlightening, and it lets you know where things came from before they ended up in the stuff that we all maximize and love. The Michael Shankers and the great guys, the Steve Vais of the world. It's all about influences, and it's about being passionate about them and not feeling guilty from stealing from everybody, because everybody stole from everybody. It never ends. You can't have progress. If I played something completely original that nobody ever heard before, they go, is that music? Because our brains don't work like that. There has to be something to identify with. So just a lot of psychology in music.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Tommy, for that. A couple great comments coming in. Tracii, James says, I'm glad I came across the post about this today on Facebook. I'm a huge fan. Tracii Guns is my all-time favorite guitarist. So very cool. Love that tone. man, there's just you got a lot of fans here, which is awesome. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to bring Shane back on, and he's going to give you a little bit of a pop quiz. So just saying, he's got a few questions for you.
Bring
So
it, Shane.
Let's rapid fire this.
Actually, I do have some rapid fire questions, but before we get into that, there's something. I get a little birdie talking to me because I'm the dumb one on this stream, right? So I need you to talk to me like
you have the best facial hair.
I do. I have a great mustache, and that's all I have going for me. But I've been asked to ask you about sleaze metal. So this is, yes. So I want you to describe to me what sleaze metal is and how you sort of helped develop that sound.
It's, that's a really good question because that was never like an intended thought, right? That was never, a little backstory. When we were putting Guns N' Roses together, there was a definite idea. And the definite idea was to take kind of what Aerosmith had done and then add Wasp to it. You know what I mean? Like it was a definite kind of idea. Like, hey, yeah, because we were coming out of the Motley Crue, Rat era, and Guns N' Roses was a new thing, as was LA Guns, right? But when it comes to the sleaze, I've been called the king of sleaze guitar. And I, it's ridiculous, right? My guitar does not have venereal diseases, but I think
we need a test to prove that.
I will. Fitz. But what it really comes from, I believe, is, some of my influences are Johnny Thunders, from the New York Dolls, and kind of this junky rock, kind of Lords of the New Church, a lot of this music that somehow I personally became associated with the guy with no shirt, tattoos, skinny, attitude. That guy's a dick. I've heard it all. You know what I mean? So like somehow I got the label. But as far as sleazy guitar playing goes, I think it is a certain class to being sloppy. There's a certain personality thing, like, because I mean, I would say Keith Richards is the king of sleazy guitar playing. I mean, he's just so slinky and, doesn't give a shit and, has the most money-making riff of all time with Start Me Up. Come on, man. He's the king of sleaze guitar. But I think it's more of definitely a vibe. And it's never offended me. I'll take it. It's great to be the king of something.
Perfect. Now, are you ready to get into a quick rapid fire this or that
Let's
segment?
Do it.
All right. First up, we got Eric Clapton or Jeff Beck.
Jeff Beck.
All right. Jimi Hendrix or Jimmy Page.
Oh, fuck you.
Randy Rhoads or Eddie Van Halen.
Randy Rhoads.
The Beatles or the Bee Gees.
Oh, the Beatles.
Yes or Kansas.
Kansas.
Aerosmith or Judas Priest.
Aerosmith.
NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys.
I don't know their music.
Tupac or Biggie.
Don't know their music.
Oh no, Brad Paisley or Beyonce.
Ooh, Brad Paisley.
All right, Deadpool
He's
or
a
Wolverine.
fan. He's a metal guy.
Oh, is he? Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
And the last one was Deadpool or Wolverine.
Deadpool. I love it.
Yeah.
Deadpool.
There we go.
There we
All
go.
Right, throwing
Nice.
it back to Jeffrey Sheets.
Right.
Thanks, Shane.
All right. Thanks, Shane. We may bring Shane back out. Dude, so let's have you play a little something for us, right? So one thing to talk about with you, you have a great vibrato and it's real attitude like, so give us a little bit of, some of the kind of licks that you play are really bluesy, soulful stuff. It's just got a nice vibrato and stuff. How do you, play a little bit for us, then talk a little bit about that, how you feel about that?
I think vibrato. Right. The good vibrato came from being scared to death to have bad vibrato, right? Because anytime you hear somebody kind of miss, not everybody can tell, but it's definitely uncomfortable, right? you got to get all the way around that note on both sides. You know, what's the page thing, man? You know, you got to have the vibrato. BB King.
Yeah, nice. So you think about that kind of like a vocal thing? Is it kind of like how you would sing a line when you're thinking vibrato? Does that help you kind of come up with where to put the vibrato and what notes to really squeeze a little harder?
Yeah, I think that if you hear like Ian Gillan sing, or even younger Robert Plant, you know, they had a thing, they had a comfort ending to every line they sang because they practiced so much, right? Because they've done it over and over again. No matter how they're feeling, they're ending on every time. They're gonna get to the note, you know. And like I said, when I was young, man, everybody was older than me, and they were really good guitar players, but some of them they fell short, and I could always tell, like, and I never said anything. You know, because my God, that's the worst thing you can tell a guitar player is they have bad vibrato. Yeah. You know, because that's the whole essence of, you know. Right? Step and a half up, you know, of Gilmore, right? You got to feel those things, you know, and I know that I've had students in the past that get all the notes right, you know, and I give them the whole background, the whole thing, but they're so concerned with getting the passage right. They're not listening to what they're playing. You know, don't make that mistake, you know, like listen to what you're playing. Don't just do it because it's a physical activity and you're only competing with yourself, you know? So by the time I got into Schenker, man, and that guy's vibrato, you know, I was like, that's it. You know what I mean? Michael Schenker, he's you know, if I'm the sleazy guy, he's the vibrato guy. And Gary Moore, my God.
Yeah.
You know, these guys had vibrato that they go on either side of the note like it's nothing. And Eddie Van Halen, of course, too. But a lot of the guys, like the beginning blues guys, like in the 20s and 30s, they had a crazy sense of timing and a crazy sense of vibrato. You know, because there was the discovery period of, you know, blues guitar, pre-electric guitar. And, you know, a lot of times in the 80s and early 90s when we would go to Austin, Texas, or, you know, places in the South, they have this music on repeat, you know, and you just sit there. And I just listen to in those bars, those blues songs over and over again. And you almost want to start playing like that because it's really infectious. It's really hooky. Yeah. But it's not because they're playing 12-bar blues. It's because of the men they were. It's because of what they do. You know what I mean? So don't try to play like somebody else. You know, just, you know, have a cuckoo personality and make sure it comes out in your playing. You know, and if you're you know, a Pisces, man, you know, you just. But I'm an Aquarius.
Nice.
You know, everybody's different.
Absolutely, man. Everybody's different. That's such a good point. So we had a question a little while back, and basically, you know, what kind of advice would you give someone on becoming a better rhythm player, right? Because we know everybody wants to solo and do that stuff, but we all know that the real how you get a gig is being a good rhythm player, right? And
Yeah,
you
man.
played great rhythm, for so many years. Your rhythm stuff is just always solid. So,
Oh, thanks, man.
how does somebody go about improving that, or what do you listen to? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, funk music, man. I mean, period. Funk.
Yeah.
It was funny, I grew up with Flea and Anthony from the Chili Peppers, and finally John Frusciante disappeared, and I went in and I just rehearsed with him for a little bit. And at that time, I was a metal guy, but I grew up on Sly and the Family Stone and all the stuff and those guys.
Yeah.
And it was great, and it's because I understand the feeling. Once again, it's the feeling. And I got to tell everybody something. You don't play guitar with your arm, you play with your wrist. You don't, it's like, like all these little things, and it all comes from the blues, man, really. I mean, those guys are funky, and that's really good. I mean, Slash, man, the guy's the funk master, but he plays rock. But that
Right.
feel and that swag really, really comes from the funk feeling, and disco, I mean, got to admit it, man, those guys are the funkiest.
No doubt.
So I mean, but it is important, to concentrate on rhythm. Keith Richard is an amazing rhythm guitarist. Malcolm and Angus Young. Both those guys. But if you're more into metal, Dimebag is one hell of a rhythm guitar player, man. Like holy moly! But at the end of the day, he's a blues-based rock guitar player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's all about figuring out everybody's influences and where they got their stuff from. But rhythm, man, man, and it's the difference from one song to the next on your album. Those are the things that make a difference, is the rhythm of the song. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. If you can get that feel down, man, that's what makes the magic. Otherwise, it's just playing
Yeah,
notes.
you could be a shit guitar player as long as you can play all the notes as long as you have good rhythm. You're awesome.
Yeah.
All this stuff like looks fancy, but it gets boring really fast for the listener. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's really cool. Could you play "Start Me Up"?
Right, absolutely. So talking a little bit more about, how, how you get ready for a tour or just in general. Someone was asking, what's your sort of practice playing schedule like now versus maybe what it was, 30 years ago? I mean, or do you prep more? Do you work on other things? Are you working on stuff, more for the show? Kind of how do you approach sitting down with a guitar now versus how you did before?
Well, I think, when our first album came out, like in 1988 or whenever it was, I was so goddamn serious about making sure that I was creating my space in the magazines, right? Better be good, better be articulate, I better not fuck this shit up live, right? I better pull it off. And I was really had a good regiment, practice for 30 minutes, and then stop 10 minutes before I went on stage, and, don't drink alcohol, nothing like that, nothing that's going to cramp your muscles or anything like that. And as time went on, playing with different guys and different bands and recording for people, I found just kind of jamming to myself is really the best thing. However, though, if you have like hand issues, like where your fingers cramp up and stuff like that when you play, there are stretching exercises that you can do that you can make them up yourself. You don't have to go do something that somebody tells you to do. You want to stretch your fingers along the fretboard. for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Just it really opens your fingers up, and that helps a lot. I spend so much time recording when I'm not on tour that I don't really practice because I'm playing so much. So before a tour, I have to like kind of practice for like 3 days. Like 10 o'clock at night, I'll go in the studio, sit on the floor, pretend I'm building a pedal board, and just like kind of, twist all the knobs, get the feeling, turn up really loud, turn all the delays on, and just get in the mood. Like that's a really good way to get ready for a tour. And because I'm always rusty, I mean, you if you haven't toured for 3 months, it's not going to be the same. But I try to, like, those 3 days before we have our first show, I pretend I'm playing. You know what I mean? I pretend that I'm doing it and I'm feeling it. And of course I'm not, because I can't get 120 decibels in my house. You know what I mean? But getting there, doing it. And, after the first 4 or 5 songs of the first show, once I've remembered all the stuff, by the second show, third show, I'm feeling pretty good. And for years, until this tour, for exactly 20 years, Diary of a Madman was our intro tape.
Nice.
And I started that when I was in the Brides of Destruction. And because I didn't always have time to warm up, but I could always have 6 minutes to have my amp cranked up. I play along with that every night for the last 20 years. And I just ended it because it's like, okay, I've done that. It's time to do some new things. Yeah. And now we're doing Jesus Christ Superstar.
there you go.
But that was my warm up for 20 years, was just playing along to Diary of a Madman, the greatest piece of heavy metal rock orchestration ever written. And if that can't warm you up, then nothing can.
Good advice. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. All right. I know we're getting to the end. I know we got time for a couple more segments, but I'd be remiss to not bring Shane back out for one more rapid fire question session, because, I think he's got a fun session here. So Shane, give us some questions.
All right. So I got 5 questions here that are going to kind of give people a little bit of an idea what's going on to your head, and maybe learn something about you that they may have not learned before. So the first thing I want to ask is, you got a lot of tattoos. Which is your favorite tattoo?
I don't have any tattoos. See, that's the thing. When you have this many tattoos and 2 years goes by, you look in the mirror, you don't even see them anymore. But my first tattoo was this, which is unfortunately a left-handed black and white striped flying V going through a heart, because when they put the stencil on, you look in the mirror, it looks right-handed, just kind of like when we started this thing today. So it's left-handed, and the blue rose next to it is in memory of Randy Rhoads. That's my first tattoo.
Nice.
So that's a good one.
That's a great one.
And I was 17. It was illegal to have that tattoo.
Wow.
That's metal, baby. What's your favorite city to perform in?
Oof. Favorite city to perform in? I can't say that, because the people go nuts when we play.
Everybody get mad. I was ready to just pounce on you if you didn't say St. Pete. What's the very first song that you learned how to play?
Whole Lot of Love.
Whole Lot of Love.
No, I'm lying. It was good. It was a...
nice. Nice.
Football Wizard.
Very nice.
Yeah.
My uncle showed me that.
All right. Dead or alive, what's your dream collaboration?
It'd have to be Hendrix with Bonham.
Good choice.
John Paul Jones. Not taking anything away from Page, but I mean, and Ian Gillan singing.
Nice.
Right? Like, that would be crazy.
Good band.
John Lord on keyboards.
You had it all figured out already. All right. As much as we can confine it into a PG-13 setting, what is the craziest thing a fan has ever done for you? Moving on. What's the best advice you've ever received?
What's what?
The best advice you've ever received.
Oh, it came from Howard Leese's father. He told Howard, if you want to get better, always play with musicians that are better than you.
It's a great one.
That's
And I have one more question that is something that I always find to be super interesting, and that's what's a genre or artist that you aren't typically associated with that you would like to work with, and that people would be surprised by?
I'm fascinated by Enya. I mean, seriously, like, I think it's her husband, he produces the music, and then they do all the vocal layers. And it's just really from kind of more of a production point of view, a soundscape, but somehow they're able to turn those really vast pieces of music into something that's kind of like popular music.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to work with her and him. I almost played with Danzig, and that's a long story, but that was always one of my bucket list things. And we had it all set up, and somebody else screwed it up, and so that ain't gonna. I mean, I guess it could still happen, but any kind of, crooning, kind of nostalgic, vintage sounding vocals where I can play heavy and atmospheric at the same time, but not sound modern. I really don't like modern music. I hate to admit it, I just don't like it. It's because I'm old. It's to be expected. But I would really love to do something with just, just so much cool, so much swag and woody smelling music. You know what I mean? Slap back delays, but not rockabilly, like something else. Like, I really feel like I could take that to a new level of something that hasn't been done yet, just by combining these influences that we're talking about. But I'd have to have the right vocalist to do that. That's the thing.
Awesome. Good stuff, Shane. Thank you again for coming in. So Tracii, look, we got time for a couple more questions or a couple more things, but tell us a little bit about your guitar.
This guitar, this one?
Yeah.
This was custom made for me by Cam Guitars, my friend Chris.
Who's watching, I believe. I believe he just chimed in and is watching.
I hope so. So his thing is like with first he had a green one with a peace sign, and I fell in love with that guitar. And he does this laser etching. So as it ages, it's going to get really funky. It's going to get really cool. So I had him build me this one, so I wasn't playing the Jimmy Page Dragon all the time. I did the Tracii Guns Snake with a psychedelic pickguard. And what's cool about it is he bought me an extra fret, so I have 22 frets instead of 21 frets.
Nice.
But this is my main telly. This is. I have this and a 60s spec Les Paul. They're my two workhorses. Like, I count on them. They have all the right pickups in them, wiring, the straps hold the buttons hold the straps, like all that stuff. I have a lot of tellies and Les Pauls, and there's two that I use. And then my third guitar is this FU Tone kind of super strat, which in a pinch does everything. It's got coil splits. It's got a Floyd on it. It stays in tune, all that stuff. Oh, somebody asked, where's the Dean? Dude, I got so many guitars. But I stick with the classics. That this telly, Chris builds them. He's a custom builder. So, if anybody, Cam Guitars, if you want a guitar like this or to your specs with a cool ass logo on it, look at that.
Yeah, nice.
TFG. The F stands for friendly. He'll build you guitars, man, at a reasonable prices.
Nice. That is awesome. All right. So I got a couple more questions. For sure, everybody check out the links. Check out Tracii's course, the new course. You can get it now. You can get in early, get this course. It's really, really good stuff. There's not only great, musical stuff in there. There's great wisdom and some cool stories from Tracii that are really, it's just a good course because he's a really good teacher, very personable. As he said, everything is really playable. He designed this to be something that you could actually jump into and play. This isn't about, here, let me show you all my cool licks that I can do. It's more about, here's the things that will help you. And I think that's really the important thing here. As a player, you'll be able to, dig into this and start playing. So mentioned something earlier about, playing with other people and stuff. And man, when you look at like the LA Guns wiki, it is like, you gotta have a cup of coffee and sit down and read for a while, right? Because you guys you've played with a lot of people, right? A ton of different members, and that band played with different bands. One thing that I see a lot with students is they're always afraid to play with other people, or they're nervous about going out and jamming, or they think they got to get better. So as someone who has played with a ton of people, number one, how has that benefited and helped your playing? And then what advice would you give to someone who's like, man, I don't know if I should play with anybody, or, somebody sitting in his bedroom practicing, kind of, how would you give them advice to get over that and to jump into play?
Well, I mean, I think, anybody, we're talking about guitar players here, and I guess it goes for all musicians, but, you're supposed to play the guitar because you love it and it's your friend and you take it to school with you and you take it, it's in the backseat of your car so you can grab it anytime. I mean, that's to me, that's the ultimate relationship with your instrument, to where, I don't want to sound cliche, but it is your voice musically, it's your thing. So the more people you play with, it's like the more people you talk with in life, and you gain knowledge. You always pick up a little knowledge from every human being you come across, even if it's bad knowledge, like, oh, I ain't going to do that. You know what I mean? So it's the same when playing music with so many people. Is you get their bad habits, their good habits, what feels good. Oh, that one note he played, it's forever in my arsenal now. One note, that pedal that guy used. Wow, I got to have that. It appeals to me. There's so many reasons to play with as many people as possible. But the great thing is you can still have your band, right? You can have your thing that you do, that's your brainchild, but that shouldn't keep you from playing with other people. I mean, look at the greatest guys in the world. Everybody from, Vai, Hendrix to Page, Beck, they played with everybody. Even Van Halen, who had a rule in the band that, he was not to play with other people. He still did. He didn't care. I mean, his best friend, Steve Lukather, those guys played more guitar together, than probably they did on stage in their respective bands. You know what I mean? It's important to play with other people. I don't think that you can grow step by step if you don't play with people that are better than you. And if, you're stuck with people that are not as good as you, well, then you're going to bring them up, and that's equally as important. And it makes you feel good,
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good advice, man. Well, Tracii, this has been fun. Anybody wants to check out Tracii stuff, just go to the LA Guns website. You can check out their tour for sure. Go see these guys live. They're awesome. Make sure you check out Tracii's course. Really, really good stuff. I think you'll really dig it. And we're going to play a song, I think, just to play a segment of the course as we go out here. Back in the day, man, I remember, when Ballad of Jane came out, you couldn't even turn on MTV without seeing that video somewhere. It was awesome. It was everywhere. And you go over that song, you show the rhythm part and do some soloing over that in the course, which is pretty cool. So let's play that going out. But I wanted to see, do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to say to folks, Tracii, before we kind of head this out and close this out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, everybody that came in here, you must be interested in playing the guitar and must like hard rock, these things. And, the one advice I give everybody is don't be scared of the damn instrument, and that's the hardest thing to overcome, is thinking that you can't do it, and you can do whatever you want on it. It's it's easier for me because that's what I do. but it's a basic instrument. You know, once the calluses are gone on your fingers after 3 weeks, you're in, you know, and that's it. And when you get in a rut, listen to a different style of music. Go on YouTube and, you know, put a soul song on, learn how to play the soul song. It'll take you right out of the rut. Don't have one influence, man. You don't want to clone anybody. You know, even though you might have in your mind that you're one guy, don't ever let anybody know that. You know, it's a combination of everything that came before you that's going to make you the best player you could be, right? So that's it, and you're going to dig the course. It's a great course. I think we all agree. We had a great time doing it, and if you have questions, there's a place on the page you can ask me questions. If you really need a lesson, I can give you a lesson, stuff like that. But anyways, you can get a hold of me through TrueFire, and I'd be glad to help you.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. So for Shane and Tommy and myself, we thank you so much, and all the other TrueFire crew. So
Thanks, Tracii.
Let's play a tune out.
Let's play it out.
All right. Thanks,
See you
brother.
soon, man.
Thanks, everyone.
That's cool.